So in this video, I want to take a look at the Cascadia 4x4 VSS, Vehicle Specific Solar System. So this right here is not a vinyl wrap, it's not for decoration, it is a custom fit solar panel for my F-150. Cascadia 4x4 makes these for different models of trucks and Jeeps and other vehicles, which you can check out. But as you can see, it's a solar system perfectly designed for your hood, for certain vehicle applications. Again, obviously here, this is a 2017 F-150, so anything 2015 and up should work with this specific model. Let's take a closer look. Let me just quickly hit on the reasons for solar, and I'm not going to tell you why you need it. Everybody has different reasons. There's plenty of people who don't need solar. I'm just going to tell you why I was interested in adding solar and how I use it. So we do a lot of camping. We don't pull a travel trailer. We have a small off-road trailer with a rooftop tent essentially off that trailer. We like to be able to go full dry camping, go off-grid. We're not doing crazy long trips typically, but like weekends, overnighters. As you guys may have seen in a previous video, I run a Dometic electric fridge, for example, instead of a cooler. But I also have on this truck several other, call them accessory systems, that I'm looking to use solar to power or help power. So everything from lighting, be that driving lighting or scene lighting at night. We have camp lighting. I have a decked drawer system in my bed, and I've done a lot of custom work in that to add auxiliary power, whether it's simple stuff like USB for phones, as I mentioned, camp lighting. I have a essentially an RV water pump back there, so we do pressurized water. All of these smaller accessories, if you want to call them, that pull power. And I didn't want to run a dual battery setup or install some crazy complicated systems. So for me, I was looking to add power, to supply power to the main battery and keep it powered while running all of those accessories. And for me, this solution is perfect. I don't have to worry about external panels and then pulling panels out and deploying them at camp and then packing them up if I want to leave camp for a little bit. I don't have to worry about somebody stealing my panels. I don't have to then buy panels, buy a charge controller, buy all of the connections. Like, this is a plug-and-play system that has everything I needed in one simple package. It took a lot of the guesswork out. I had previously spent hours looking at solar panels, looking at charge controllers, figuring out all the different types of connections. Honestly, I wasted a bunch of time doing that stuff because this fits my needs perfectly, and it's an all-in-one system with the panel, charge controller, etc., which you'll see in just a little bit. So to quickly hit on the panel itself, as you see here, it is much more robust than I had pictured. When I was thinking a solar panel and thinking something that was somewhat flexible to contour to a hood, I was thinking something relatively thin and was worried about it being relatively fragile. My truck sits outside 24/7. Everything from heat, like I have today, to winter conditions, rain, hail, sleet, snow. We get all types of weather. And thus far, the panel has stood up phenomenally well, especially during heat, which is where I was worried about some of the adhesive loosening. And I'll show you more about the installation and all of that here in a bit. But just to touch on the panel, I was very impressed by the lamination of it. Cascadia 4x4 talks about it being marine grade in certain ways, so essentially waterproof and standing up to the elements. And everything I have seen thus far, not only in the panel itself, but as the installation materials, has been very, very nice and robust. All of the wiring is great as well. Everything from connections to just the gauge of the wiring that they use fits the application incredibly well and gave me a lot of confidence that for the long term, this is going to be a high-performing solution, which is exactly what I wanted, because this truck is something I'm planning on keeping for a long, long time. Let's go ahead and dive under the hood and take a look at some of the other components besides the panel itself. All right, so with the Cascadia 4x4 VSS system, you receive this component, which, as you can read, is a solar charge controller. If you're new to solar, essentially the very short non-technical version is this will take solar power from the panels and apply it to a battery properly, meaning it won't overload a battery and basically gives you some protection and precautions. If you are more familiar with solar, you can see it is a MPPT charge controller, which is a certain type of controller. They can read more about. I won't get into all those specifics. I do want to talk about some of the installation here. So as you can see, this cable here is coming from on top of the hood. That is the main connection, I should say the only connection from the panel itself. I've temporarily routed things here. You can see it's coming under this area of the dash. Here it is again. And then it is these connections which are connecting the solar panel to the charge controller. These are standard, I believe MC4, if I'm going from memory correctly, solar connectors, pretty popular, kind of standard in the solar world. A nice waterproof version, very good wiring. And so that is providing the signal into this charge controller. You can see there are other sets of wires here. One is battery. So that is a power and a ground that is coming then out of the charge controller. It is a fused power connection there, important. That again is all included, all this wiring is included, a fused power connection, which is then taking power into the charge controller from the panel and then sending it out to the battery. I did go ahead and I kind of added my own splice into that connection. The wiring, the standard factory wiring, is great. It has the ring terminals already on the ends for connecting directly to your battery terminal, power and ground. I just wanted that splice in there for easy maintenance, disconnecting in the future, things like that. That is all well and good. Let me tell you more about the accessory. So the accessory power is basically a smart power source, and I'll show you how I have it routed, where you have a power and a ground that you can then do whatever you want with. So these are shorter leads that come by default right here, and I have them going to a 12-volt outlet in my truck. These short leads are not required. You do not have to use them at all, but they are, call them smart leads, if you will. And what I mean by that is they will only send power to the device that you wire them to when the battery has sufficient power for that device. So it's basically a fail-safe. You can wire things to this charge controller, and the charge controller will essentially ensure that you do not deplete your starting battery. So your truck is going to give power to the accessory that you've wired through this accessory output up until the point that it needs to conserve power so that it can start. So essentially, you leave something quote-unquote on, you don't have to worry about a dead battery because this charge controller is taking care of that for you. It's an outstanding feature to have. Another thing that's fantastic about this system that I was really happy with is the instructions. It's not just a page of instructions, it's an entire instruction booklet. And you don't need to be overwhelmed by that. It's not a bunch of technical garbage. You don't have to be an electrician to understand it. It's not crazy diagrams. It is very photo heavy and walks you through installation of the panel and all of the wiring, which is incredibly simple. Wanted to show you really quickly, there's also diagnostics on board. So you can see it talks about a green LED, a yellow LED, and a red LED, which corresponds to these LEDs on the charge controller, which are a little bit tough to see right now in this light. Yeah, kind of tough to see. You can see the yellow, you can see the green. So you can very easily look here and see what does the green LED mean, if it's fast blinking, slow blinking, what does the yellow mean, etc. So if you have any questions about is my panel working, you can reference the LEDs, you can look at the state of your battery, reference the LEDs. Let me hop in the cab and show you one more thing that I did to customize this system and take it one step further, as I was really curious to see exactly, not only is my panel connected and charging my battery, but how much power is this panel providing me? let's go in the cab and check that out. Alright, so in addition to the charge controller under the hood giving you the blinking indicators that the solar panel is providing a charge, I took it one step further. I already had this custom switch panel that you see, which powers many of the accessories and auxiliary power systems in my truck, and I went ahead and added the voltmeter to that. So as you can see right now, my battery is providing 13.6 volts. This is the truck completely powered off currently. It's in no sort of powered state, and prior to the panel install, I already had this voltmeter installed before the solar, and my battery in its current condition, it's I think it's 4 years old, my battery, and it was basically at the resting rate of, let me think here, 12.2 to 12.3 volts. If you know much about batteries, that's with some wear. Again, it's multiple years old, not a fully charged battery by any means. And you can see that the voltage coming from the battery well exceeds even what a fully charged battery provides. So 13.6, it is providing me incredibly good power on this sunny day to not only run power accessories from the house battery, the main battery, and at the same time not deplete that battery. So something you might want to install. I mean, these meters are really easy and cheap. Pick it up on Amazon for a few bucks, wire it up, power and ground, you're good to go. Maybe you want to add that to your VSS system if you get one. Alright, so as shown prior, I gave you the examples of the wiring for the solar panel, the battery connection, the accessory power, which again is something optional. One more thing I will say in addition to those LEDs we talked about is everything here is very well sealed. There's this nice kind of like rubberized waterproof coating over the LEDs at the wiring connections and all that. And then there's good ventilation here for the charge controller, which can get hot. They provide mounting adhesive for this, which you can mount in many places. I did this temporarily, but actually really like it. I'm just going to show you, and again, this is obviously specific to my 2017 F-150 or the same generation of F-150, but as you can see, here's the air filter. I brought in the power cables from this direction, kept everything nice and accessible here, and I'm honestly just tucking this guy in just behind a slot under this mount for my airbox. It rides there well. I have my wiring secured well. It's not adhesive, so I can pull it in and out. I can see the charge lighting. It's waterproof. It is above the wheel well, and it's a nice little cubby that doesn't allow that charge controller to get in the way. It's not falling towards any engine components. It's also away from heat sources. Honestly, I did this temporarily, but I think I'm going to leave it there permanently. And that's where I am leaving all that mounted in this F-150. Alright, so there's a good look at the Cascadia VSS solar panel. What I didn't cover yet today was installation of the panel itself. Unfortunately, I did record some of that as well as unboxing footage and lost that on a video card, the storage card that went sour. To be honest with you, at the same time, as much as I would love to have shown you the whole process, and I will talk about it here in a second, I don't want this review, or honestly most of my reviews, something that kind of bugs me, if you will, about many YouTube reviews, is that they are nothing more than unboxing videos and first impressions, and I really wanted to take some time with this system to see how it performed. So I'm a couple months in with it now. Wanted to see how the installation held up, and everything has been fantastic, not only from an electrical perspective of performance, but how the panel itself has been holding up, again being outside 24/7 for a couple months now. I will say that in their installation and user guide, which I mentioned, multiple pages, actually 18 pages that have things going, it is very simple. One thing I loved, there's a packing list here, they include everything you need. Everything except for essentially like tools, right? So like making the electrical connections, you know, you may need a basic tool there, you may want gloves, you may need a rag to clean your hood, that type of thing. But they include not only the panel and the charge controller and all of the wiring, but they include zip ties and other mounting solutions for the wiring. They included cleaners to get your paint prepped. They included adhesive bonders, which you would see in this installation book. Everything you need except for basics like a towel and a glove and, you know, a screwdriver, right, is going to be included, and it was all high quality stuff. So installation is very good. One thing that's very important to keep in mind with this panel is that they actually have a film that goes underneath it that is a heavy duty vinyl layer that is going to help protect your paint from any long-term wear with this installation. So you actually put this vinyl layer on first. You get it wet with some soapy dishwater. It's best to have 2 people. You can get it positioned, slide it in place, squeegee it out. I've never done anything like that before. It could not have been more simple. Once you get the vinyl in place, you can see him doing that there. Again, with it being wet and soapy, you can move it around so it's not stuck as you place it down, squeegee it out. Very simple. You can trace. They talk about tracing with a pen. I used painter's tape to help line some things up. But then you basically put on this adhesive promoter. All the adhesive is on the panel itself. Very high quality 3M stuff. They talk in here about that it's the same adhesive used to hold windows to skyscrapers, for example. So all high quality stuff. Process was incredibly simple. We already looked at the wiring. I would say if you have 0 to next to nothing skills, be it electrical or working on vehicles, you can install this. Again, everything is only covered here. It's very plain and simple. Photos along the way, and you can contact them directly. One of the questions that I had and that I saw come up about the solar panel was, what does it do to the driving experience? Does this solar panel reflect? Does it cause any sort of harm while driving? As you can see, the answer is no. There's no reflection. It's a very nice subdued finish, and the driving experience is not changed in any way. The solar panel works great. You don't really see it, don't check it out. Super low profile, love it. Alright guys, so that's a wrap on this video. If you have any questions about the system, feel free to leave a comment below and I will get back to those. If you want specs in terms of full solar output and all that, I purposely didn't cover it in this video so that you could check it out for yourself. The amount of power output by the panel is going to depend on the model. So if you have, let's call it, you know, a Jeep JK versus this F-150, you're going to have a different solar configuration, different power output. You can check out all of those specs on the Cascadia 4x4 website. You can see what models of vehicles they sell a VSS system for. And from what I've seen, they've also been responsive. So if you have a vehicle platform that they don't currently have a VSS system for, I'd shoot them an email. Get in touch with them, let them know that you have some interest and maybe that's something they could do in the future. So again, all is good on this system for me so far. I'm pulling into the house now, and we'll continue to be using this for years. So again, feel free to leave those questions below, and I will get back to you when I can. Thanks for tuning in.